Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Over the past 14 months, I have featured many tribute acts, from Marshall Charloff's Purple Experience to Bonfire's AC/DC tribute to Small Town covering John Mellencamp to Leonid and Friends doing a great job on Chicago covers. That's just to name a few. And why do I like tribute acts so much? Well, let me put it to you this way. A lot of these acts have passed away, and a lot of them are just too old to actually perform the shows they once did. And these tribute acts are working their butts off, and they work so hard to provide ticket holders with an experience they'll truly enjoy. Today's guest plays the role of Kenny Rogers in An Evening with the Gambler. Will you please welcome Justin Sullivan? I am delighted to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you, Rick. I've been looking forward to this.
You look remarkably like Kenny Rogers. I have to ask you, which came first, the look or An Evening with the Gambler, and you just adapted the look?
It's an interesting story in its own. My wife and I were on a gospel cruise, the 25th anniversary of the Singing at Sea. And do you remember when Kenny had that chain of chicken restaurants?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
One of the Bahama Islands, we stopped, and I told my wife, I said, I'm kind of could use a snack, and I'd love a piece of chicken. And walked in to a Rogers Roasters. It was my first one, and the place like this shut down. I mean, people were staring and looking, and I didn't know what. I thought maybe my zipper was down. What's to do? So my wife looked at me, and she looked over my right shoulder. And she looked back at me and over my right shoulder. I didn't know, but there was a picture of Kenny behind me. And she looked at me and kind of whispered. She said, "They think you're Kenny Rogers." And I said, "I never thought of that. I guess maybe I do a little." And from then, that was the birth. We went on another cruise, and some of the disc jockeys, I think you had mentioned this earlier, some of the disc jockeys were doing like snippets of songs to see who could guess what the song was,
right,
like one-hit wonders type things like that in games. And they said, "Hey, we happen to have a celebrity in the crowd today. Come, Mr. Rogers, would you come up?" And I had no idea. This was completely spontaneous. Had no idea this was back there. And I thought, he's talking about me. So I got up and I did some kind of weird snippet with him. I kind of lapsed into Lucille or something for a minute. So I left, and he started passing out cards and telling people, say, "Look, Kenny Rogers is on this cruise. And if you see him, give him one of our cards. We're trying to get in touch with him." And I had a deck of those things, man, and like 100 and something, and they did selfies all over the boat. So they really pumped it out. So they sat me down. They wanted to talk to me and said, "Have you ever thought seriously about doing it?" And I said, really no. I haven't put a lot of thought into it. And I said, he's still alive, and at that time, still touring. I thought, they've got the real thing. Why would they pay to see me? But yeah, it's been a hoot. My wife and I have had a good time with it. But it's been coming for like 25 years. If you want to know where it was at, it actually started during COVID.
Really?
I had done, this is the crazy, how this came about. I had done, are you familiar with the Daystar channel?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Network? The Daystar channel, there's a gentleman has a show on there, Kerry Farr has a show on there called In Your Corner. And he said, "I need somebody to come on, just do some snippet endings, because at the end of my interviews, I like to fill it in with maybe an old hymn." And I said, "Guess what? I'm an old hymn." So,
H-I-M and H-Y-M-N.
Yeah, so I could do that. So I sat down and did some old gospel hymns for him. He recorded them. Well, during COVID, this thing got to looping. How he was just showing shows over and over. Mm-hmm. And an agent called me and said, "Have you ever thought about doing it?" I said, "Not really." I said, he said, I'd like to do this and go on the road with it. So I made one phone call to a gentleman who's now my bus driver. But he was touring at the time with a Johnny Cash tour. And he said, "You got to do this." And we had done some gospel music and actually stayed in Kingston, Nevada one afternoon. And I put a blue coat on. And when I got up singing this blue coat, he said, "Holy mackerel, you could do that." And I said, "Well, the opportunity's there. What do you think? He said, let me tell you about this band, dude. They have got, out of one phone call, sat down with a couple of the guys, and they said, yeah, we'd be interested in doing it with you. And it's my band director's name is Glenn Dickerson. Oh, really? He played 25 years lead guitar for Gene Shepard.
Know the name.
Played all over the name.
Know the name. Son of a gun.
You're kidding me.
No, I do know the name because I used to do country for 16 years. And so oftentimes when you don't have things to talk about, you talk about members of bands.
Is that crazy?
It's weird. It's a small world. It really is a small world.
And he's my lead guitar player, if you can imagine that. And then I have Greg Hutchins on drums, who played with Billy Walker. Okay. And played with Gene for 18 years. They played all over the Grand Ole Opry and a lot of the CMA Fest awards and things shows. They've played all that. But I've got Steve Kennedy, who was with Lynn Anderson for 20 years. He was with Ricky Van Shelton, Ed Bruce, Glacier, Cash, master session work, backup vocalist, and I mean, he's funny as a barrel of monkeys. This guy has got a wit. He should have went in comedy. He's kind of like a Robin Williams kind of a guy. Everything's funny. So, but I have Robert Clark on acoustic lead guitar, because Kenny had a lot of those great acoustic lead ends. I have Miss Brenda Shepard on keyboards. So we've got a killer band. I call them the real deal because they are.
Yeah, they sure are.
They're the real deal, man. And when they're coming to see this show, they're not coming to see guys that are trying to learn the material. They've played this stuff for years.
Oh, yeah, they're seasoned musicians and everything. It's just look, like, we'll play that in A. Play it in A. Okay, ready, go. You know, it's kind of thing.
Well, see, in Nashville, they do this Nashville number system. You're familiar with the number system?
Yes, right? I am. Yeah.
It's the strangest thing. It looks like a long math equation. You know, it doesn't look like any kind of music at all. It's 1 3 4 1 3 4 1, and then 2 over 5, and all. And I'm thinking, but they use that system, and they can jump from any key to the next key and just up or down or where you will go with it. And it's. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm telling you straight from the heart. To listen to these guys play some of these beautiful songs that Kenny had, like through the years, She Believes in Me, and the melodic notes that are in a lot of this. It is so mesmerizing to hear them pulling these notes just out of the air that I get carried away listening to the music. I almost forget to sing.
I can imagine because it's just sometimes you just become a fan of your own band. By the way, if anyone's wondering what he resembles as far as which version of Kenny, he is the one before the plastic surgery and the weight loss, the one we all come to know and love as far as that goes. It's strange. You look so much like Kenny Rogers. And the only time I was ever mistaken for anyone was years and years ago. We were traveling across country, my late wife and my kids and such. I think my kids were probably like in their about 10 or so. We had stopped at a restaurant, and I could hear some people whispering behind me. She goes, "That looks like him. It looks just like him. It looks like him." And then my wife said, hey, Rick, go ahead and get a plate for the kids, and I'll go ahead and get them settled down. He goes, it's got to be him. He said, Rick. They thought it was Rick Moranis because I had round glasses at the time. They thought I was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
It's not that I'm a star. I know I'm not. And I've never, people have come up and asked me for my autograph. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why bust their bubble and why make Mr. Rogers look bad? I wouldn't want somebody to think that he was a snob. Well, I'm not him. So I just signed Kenny, and they're tickled, and I'm refrigerator art somewhere, right? So
I love that. It's so wise of you. I really like that. Let's talk about your musical beginnings. I understand that your mother and her sisters performed years ago on the Junior Grand Ole Opry. Is that true?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. They did some songs on that. Had great harmonies. Of course, family harmonies, it's hard to beat when you got three people that are a family that sing together and they've learned syllables and how to speak from the same individuals. Man, they formulate their words the same. They have the same. They have the same characters. Pronounce enunciations and the R's and vowels and consonants. They're all the same because they've learned them in the family. So when they sing, you can tell a family has the harmonies because their syllables and everything are just spot on. So They enjoyed that, and I actually have a song that I wrote for my mother. My father passed away in 2000, and if there was such a thing as grieving yourself to death, she tried. But I wrote a song for my mother, and we have a little project that we sell at the table. And I don't, CDs. I don't know if anybody even still buys them, but it's kind of nostalgic.
Yeah.
To get
How
a
many
CD
cars have CD players anymore?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you Bluetooth everything, and you pick your own station and listen to it. So it's not like it was. And you had mentioned social media. I had no clue of doing anything on social media when this first started up. But now I've got over 3,000 friends on Facebook.
I can understand it. I think a lot of people just want to still experience Kenny Rogers because they were such big fans. Sure. And it's just amazing. I have to ask you, as far as your influence in your taste in music, you said you're a big fan of gospel and everything.
Yes.
Influences other than Kenny acts, what acts were some of your favorites as you were growing up?
We had some great music in our life. I don't know how old you are. I'm 64. Mm-hmm. And, man, we came up in a great time with the Eagles, the latter part of the Beatles, Fleetwood Mac. There was such experimental stuff going on. Kenny had some great songs that came out in the late 70s that were just killer songs. Really, that's when he really took the big leap, was in that era. And I'll give you some statistics. I read the biography that he'd written, and I wanted to kind of, if I'm going to portray him, I wanted to kind of get in his mind a little bit, how he felt about life, how he felt about things. And then if there was something I thought was close to him, there might be a reason that song had a little more emphasis in it, a little more pump. And what brought that sound, because he had such a great repertoire of music. Mm-hmm. I mean, he had killer songs. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that was important to me to kind of get in his head. But your original question, my song, I love the Eagles, particularly like Desperado, some of that ballad stuff. Maybe that's why I kind of leaned into the Kenny lady, and She Believes in Me, kind of those melodies and stuff that really have some deep words and stuff.
I was going to ask you, what song really connects with the audience?
That's interesting. We do a song, and it may have to do with the fact, the last couple of years have been pretty rough. I pull up a stool and I sit down and I try to include the audience. It's an experience, not just to come and see some guy standing up there singing. It's something that I would like when they leave, they can say, "Man, that was a great show. I felt really good." I want to stretch their emotions. Mm-hmm. I want them to laugh. I want them to be able to cry if they want to cry, and laugh and cry, and stretch those emotions. And I think one of the things that has probably been the most surprising to me and the group, we went through 2 years of COVID, and I sit down on a stool and say, "How many of you folks," and I asked them, bring the house lights up for a second, with a show of hands, how many of you folks in the last couple of years have lost someone in a car wreck, brain cancer, heart attack, COVID? Any number of things. And hands go up there. Almost everybody has lost somebody in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. And I said, we want to do a song because, we went through a period where we couldn't grieve. Mm-hmm. We couldn't visit. We couldn't have funerals. I mean, graveside visitation and stuff. It was sad. So I said, we want to do a song. And this is a song that really didn't get very high on the charts, but I think it really makes a connection with the audience. It's called Good Friends. Mm-hmm. You Were a Good Friend. And I did this recently on another podcast, and the lady was just phenomenal. She said, "Wow, I don't remember that tune." But in it speaks to the fact, why did you have to go? Just when I was getting to know you, I sang this song to show you were a good friend. They don't make them quite like you. And in my memory, you'll always be a good, good friend to me. That song today, I think, carries more meaning than it did when it came out. And so that song particularly, I have more people say, "Where did that come from? I don't remember that tune, but my gosh, what a song." And one of the most touching moments, we did the Ross Center. I'm sorry if I get a little emotional, because we did the show, and after the show, we do a meet and greet in the back. and there was a young lady that came up with someone on her arm. She couldn't see very well. And I saw the lady that she was holding her arms with look to me, and she did like this. She can't see. Mm-hmm. And I realized the girl couldn't envision me. She couldn't see me. And as she approached, I could see she had been crying. And she was within 2 feet of me, and she said, "Is this him?" And she said, "Yes, he's in front of you." And she stared almost straight through me and said, "You sang a song for me tonight. It was just for me." And she said, "I lost my best friend 2 weeks ago, and I didn't realize I needed to cry some more." And she began to cry, big tears rolling down her cheek. And I said, "Ma'am," I said, I want to ask, "Are you okay?" She said, "I'm hurting." And I said, "May I embrace you?" She said, "Yes." And I gently put my arm around her, and she leaned into me, and I whispered into her ear. I said, "Lord, give her the mercy, give her the peace, give her the grace, the strength to go through what she's going through. God be with you." And, that for a song to mean that much to somebody, that it allows them to expel that part that they were hurting, that transcends just a show.
Oh, yeah, totally does.
That goes past a show. That allows that person to get on with life a little bit. I think Mr. Rogers would be proud of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely, I think so too. And the whole thing, this happened on a gospel cruise. Don't you think this might be God's little nudge that says, something? I got something planned for the rest of your life.
And it can be the vehicle.
Yeah, it is. And when I was on the air, people would say, something? I was having a really lousy day, but you played a song for me just a few minutes ago. I want to thank you. You just made my day. And that's something you can't calculate in a paycheck. That's something you calculate in your heart. And that's all these.
You've made that kind of difference in somebody's life. As scatterbrained as we are today, running helter skelter, everything is, there's a turmoil every time you turn around. If you can take somebody and let them get away from the world and the concerns that they have to face every day, just for a little bit, just give their mind a break. Mm-hmm. Isn't that worth it to do this? And the songs that we're doing, they're all love songs. Mm-hmm. Every one of them. They're Sweet Music Man. We did that one. Do you remember Sweet Music
Yes,
Man?
I do. Yes, I do. I remember a lot of Kenny's early stuff, too, with the first edition, too.
Oh, you remember Something's Burning and What Condition My Condition
Yeah, absolutely. Reuben James and all that, yeah.
Reuben, we do Reuben and Ruby.
Don't take your love to town.
Yeah, so we've got a great repertoire.
You got a real good repertoire.
Yeah.
We're good. I know folks are chomping at the bit. They want to say, I want to hear what he sounds like. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you a little sample, a little taste of an evening with the Gambler. I might as well play the song The Gambler right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast with our guest, Justin Sullivan.
On summer's evening, on a train bound for nowhere, I met up with the Gambler. We were both too tired to speak, so we took turns of staring at the window at the darkness. The boredom overtook us, and he began to speak. He said, "Son, I've made a life out of reading people's faces, knowing what the cards were by the way they held their eyes. So if you don't mind my saying, I can see you're out of aces. For a taste of your whiskey, I'll give you some advice." So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light. Then the night got so quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, "If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. 'Cause you got to know when to hold 'em, and know when to fold 'em, and know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There will be time enough to count when the deal is done." Every gambler knows that the secret to surviving is knowing what to throw away and knowing what to keep. 'cause every hand's a winner and every hand's a loser, and the best that you can hope for is to die in your sleep. Then when he finished speaking, he turned back towards the window, crushed out a cigarette, and faded off to sleep. Then somewhere in the darkness, the gambler, he broke even, and in his final words I found an ace that I could keep. 'Cause you got to know when to hold up, know when to fold up, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough to count when the dealing's done. 'Cause you got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. 'Cause you never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough to count when the dealing's done. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough to count when the deal's done.
Beautiful music. Justin Sullivan as Kenny Rogers right there. The song The Gambler right there. And that is from An Evening with the Gambler. We'll be playing some more music from Justin here in a few minutes, but I'd like to thank you so much for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast. We're on the World Wide Web at SomeoneYouShouldKnowPodcast.com. There you're going to find our recent episode, our archive of past episodes, and a whole lot more. And if you happen to be visiting, we invite you to go ahead and leave a comment, okay? We are so very blessed to reach so many cities around the world, 1,700 cities over that, and over 80 countries around the world. And we'd like to salute some cities. Since Justin's you're from Tennessee, right, Justin?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Here's some of the cities in Tennessee that have listened to the show. Hendersonville, Seymour, Brentwood, Murfreesboro, Gallatin, Knoxville, Sevierville. This is just to name a few. Sevierville, I guess maybe Dolly's families might be listening down there.
That's right.
The Someone You Should Know podcast, heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. Thanks for tuning in. Back to our interview with Justin Sullivan. There's a question I've got to ask you. This is the first question I actually came up with. Since Kenny passed in 2020, do fans look at you a little differently before Kenny died, and then now that Kenny has passed? Do they look at you a little differently?
Well, that's been an experience, Rick, honestly. I think when I got into this, I didn't realize the weight that it would carry. The very first, and this is where the beginning that I realized this man was an icon. I mean, he sold 122 million albums. That's a lot of material. Mm-hmm. The year that he sold, you remember the Greatest Hits album?
Of course, yes.
Okay, the Greatest Hits, it sold 22 million copies. At that time, there was only 6 people that had won the Diamond Award, which means you sold 10 million copies of one album. He sold 22 million. Mm-hmm. He really won it over twice.
Yeah, and that's a category of the Eagles and Saturday Night Fever and Rumors from Fleetwood Mac. That's something that isn't accomplished very often, and that's something else. And also, here's something else that's in Kenny's catalog that I absolutely was his Christmas albums. His Christmas albums were absolutely fabulous. Yeah. Absolutely fabulous.
Do you remember the shows?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Christmas
specials? Yes, I sure do. You know, it's strange. You can find those all on YouTube now. And speaking of Christmas shows, I want to talk about a couple that you've got coming up here. December 16th, it's a country Christmas with D. Church as Elvis, Wendy T. as Dolly, and this is at the Beacon Theater in Hopewell, Virginia. A question I got to ask you is, if Wendy is playing the role of Dolly, do you get up there and do Islands in the Stream with her?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, we rock it.
Awesome.
We rock it. And that's the 16th and 17th.
16th and 17th, at Hopewell. Yeah. What I'll do, if you would happen to be in the area and would like to check out an incredible show, I'll put it down in the show notes to get tickets to that particular gig. And then right after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, a Salute to the Stars with D. Church as Elvis at the Broadway Theater in Pittman, New Jersey. This is the 29th through the 31st. And that is That's really, really cool. Once again, I'll make sure they're in the show notes so people can get these tickets. Pittman, New Jersey, and also Hopewell, Virginia. Look out. It's going to be a great night of music with my friend right there, Justin Sullivan. If a person attends the concert for the very first time, an evening with the Gambler, what will they expect?
I think, well, I started to allude to that. When the very first show we did was a Kenny Dolly show, and we did this at the Paramount Theater in Bristol, Tennessee. And I, at the time, had purchased this pure white suit because Kenny, part of the time, especially if you saw any of the YouTube stuff, the one that I really try to watch and mimic is one where he did the round. I don't remember what city it was, but that it was just a round all the way around. The band was in the center, and he walked around doing it. So he wore this white suit, just stunning, beautiful white suit. So I go on the stage the first time, and they shine this bright, brilliant white light on that thing. And the suit glowed. It was incandescent. I mean, it just, and when I walked out, people gasped. It was like, I was a ghost or apparition or something of him. And it was really awestruck because I could literally audibly hear a gasp in the whole place. So that's when it really kind of hit me. People really are going to get into this show. That I can sell this as far as the look. I think they'll buy into that. And if I can sing the songs and I've got a killer band, this is as close in this world as you're going to come to a Kenny Rogers true show. And but that, I think when they walk away, and we got some comments at the back of that show. We had a mic and had some guys asking some questions, and they were just blown away. They said the vocals were great. The band was awesome. Said it was spot on. And that was our very first show. And if you've been around music, you know this. As a band plays together for any amount, like if you can get inconsistent, maybe playing for 5 or 6 months together, man, it just locks down tight. It just gets smoother and smoother, and it just flows one song to the next. And so it just gets better as you go. But yeah, I think they'll come away thinking, man, I'm glad I did this. If it comes back to town again, I want to do this again. It kind of leaves a great feeling in their heart. At least that's my hope.
Yeah. Be kind of nice to get a residency at like Branson or something like that, wouldn't it?
Well, that was mentioned. Some of my guys in my band and myself, I don't know if we want to be in one spot for 3 months. But, as much as a week might not be so bad to do a week in a place. And we did do, you probably know the Belfry.
Yeah.
We did that, and we were there 3 days this last year. Man, they were super sweet, nice people. And they shot it on video. We got some great video from them, from the Belfry Theater there. But it's I'll tell you something interesting. I like to kind of do road stories or something like that along the way. We had just done that show, and are you familiar with the name Rex Benson?
No, I can't say I have.
Rex Benson was a producer for Kenny for 30 years, and he has an app on his phone that alerts him if someone does a particular song, and it was one that we did at the Paramount Theater. And I don't know how it works. I guess it's where it's listed in the credits or something at the end of the show. Somehow it gets on the internet. He gets alerted. So here's Mr. Rex Benson on the other end of the line. And I'm thinking, what have I done?
Is this going to be a cease and desist type thing? Or what?
Oh, my God. I'm toast. He said, and Mr. Benson, and he said, yes. And he said, so I was doing the song Buy Me a Rose. And if you ask me, which is one of my favorite songs that we do, it's that one. I love the song Buy Me a Rose. I hate that it came out so late. It came out at the same time on the same project, She Rides Wild Horses, that you remember The Greatest, the little boy with the baseball bat?
That is one of my favorite songs that he ever did. And it's just one of the sweetest things. We used to give away books that had that in there. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So he did songs for forever that were just killer great songs. So anyway, he was on the show, have you ever saw The Big Interview?
No, can't say
with the famous, there's a TV show, and I can't remember, Mr. Wallace.
Oh, Mike Wallace?
I think was the one. Mike Wallace, it's his show. And Kenny was on the show, and I tuned in to particularly to watch it. And he asked, he said, Mr. Rogers, or Kenny, however he announced to him, spoke to him, he said, how is it that you have come up with such great material? Like great country love songs, She Believes in Me, Through the Years, Lady, and Coward of the County, The Gambler, and all that. He said, well, I'll tell you, he said, songs to start somewhere and take you somewhere and it can bring you back home. He said, but your love song, I say this in our concerts because I think it was so well said. He said, a great country love song should say what a man should say and a woman wants to hear.
There you go.
Isn't that
well put. Well put. I love that. So once again, Kenny's producer's got you on the phone. What is he saying to you?
Yeah. So he's saying, I'm thinking we're in trouble. And I'm saying, is everything? He said, no, everything's good. He said, I get an announcement. I have an alert on my phone, which was a little spooky, that he's got this thing that announces that, somebody's done a song. And he said, I saw your act. And he said, I've seen too many that are just slaughtering. He said, we love this song. Actually looking at redoing the song with another group now. They're trying to find a group to do it with, so it may come back out in the near future. But he said, that was a great song. And he said, the way you do it, you're doing it fine. I said, really? He said, just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. So I thought, wow. I just got an approval from somebody that was a producer for Kenny Rogers, rest of Rex Benson. That's
one of the highest. That's one of the highest accolades you're going to ever get as far as that goes. I mean, that's basically like Paul McCartney saying, "Hey, you did a better job on playing Blackbird than I did," or something like that.
I mean, really, I mean, I would love if a member of his family, one of his brothers or a relative would give me an approval, to get some kind of accolade from them. But I don't have a connection to that. But I'd love for that to happen sometime because I want them to know I'm trying to do it right. I don't want to do anything to belittle the name, the achievements that he did, the accomplishments that he was. And I tell people this about Kenny. I said, here he is at the apex of his career. He was the Elvis Presley of pop country. Pop country never reached that platform. He was the Elvis Presley of pop country.
You're absolutely right. Because
you like that statement?
Yeah, that's very true. And the reason why I say that, if you remember the late 70s, Kenny really and truly started to rise. And I think pop country really hit its apex when Urban Cowboy came out in like 1980. You had so many people breaking onto the charts. You had Willie, of course, was on there before with Waylon and such, but you also had Don Williams come on there. You had quite a few acts that normally were just on the country chart that were now moving up into the top 20 on the pop chart. And I think he was definitely a trailblazer when it came to that. As a matter of fact, during that time frame, Kenny had a song that made the top 5 that really and truly really announced himself. It was a song called Lucille. You remember that song, don't you? We're going to play your version of it right now on the Someone You Should Know podcast. A sample of An Evening with the Gambler. Here is Justin Sullivan.
In a bar in Toledo, across from the depot, on a bar stool, she took off her ring. I thought I'd get closer, so I walked on over, sit down and ask her name. When the drinks finally hit her, she said, I'm no quitter, but I finally quit living on dreams. I'm hungry for laughter, and here ever after, I'm after whatever the other life brings. In the mirror I saw him, and I closely watched him. I thought how he looked out of place. He came to the woman that sat there beside me. He had a strange look on his face. big hands were calloused. He looked like a mountain. For a minute I thought I was dead. But he started shaking, his big heart was breaking. He turned to the woman and said, "You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille." You know it. The 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times, lived through some sad times, but this time your hurt won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. After he left us, I ordered more whiskey. I thought how she'd made him look small. From the lights of the barroom to a rented hotel room, they walked without talking at all. She was a beauty, but when she came to me, she must have thought I'd lost my mind. 'Cause I couldn't hold her, 'cause the words that he told her kept coming back time after time. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucy. The 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times, lived through some sad times, but this time your hurt won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. The 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. I've had some bad times, lived through some sad times, but this time your hurt won't heal. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille.
Great song right there. Kenny Rogers did that in 1977. Justin Sullivan does it as part of An Evening with the Gambler. Great song right there. And while the song was playing, Justin and I were just talking. You got a great story about Lucille, don't you?
Oh, man. And this is in the book. If you get an opportunity to read, if you're a Kenny fan, it's well worth the read. It really kind of takes you into his mindset on things. But in it discloses, it was kind of The Gambler and Lucille were really the songs that really took him to the dance. Mm-hmm. That's really what really set him on fire. He had some good stuff with his first edition, but nothing like where he was about to go. I mean, he hit the rocket ship with these songs. So he's made it. He's got money coming in now, and he goes back home out of Texas. He lived in the Houston area to visit his mom and dad, and he gets out of his car, and his mother meets him just irate. She is just to top the cotton, son. She is mad. She let him have it. What do you mean? I never treated your daddy that way, and y'all never went hungry, and this never happened. And he said, Mom, calm down. The song was not about you. Guess what Kenny's mother name was? Lucille.
Because Margaret didn't flow, okay? I have to ask you, Dolly is touring now. You need to get with Dolly and see if you guys can just get together, maybe be her opening act or something like that. Or
gosh, I'd love to do that.
That would be wonderful, because I know she's one of the most purest, wonderful examples of a disciple on earth. She is everything to everyone, and she just seems to get better and better as she's getting older and older. And the things that she does for individuals, I bet if you could reach out to her people, she might have you open or maybe appear at least for to do Islands in the Stream or something.
Yeah,
that would.
Do you know that is still the biggest duet in country history?
I did not know that. No.
It's still the number one duet of history.
Yeah, and it was written by Barry Gibb, too, which really surprised the heck out of me. And she really is actually, I get the vibe. It sounds like a little bit like the Bee Gees there. Yeah, but that's one of my favorite country songs as well, because it's just a great song from beginning to end. And
Kenny almost didn't want to do it.
Why's that?
Well, it was brought to him to do. Barry had written it, and he was going to get Kenny to do the song. And Kenny listened at it the third day. in this session with this song. He said, I don't get it. I do not get it. I'm tired of it. I don't think I want to do the song. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, no, this is really a great song. We really need to keep it on the table. And he said, I don't get, I'm about tired of the song. I'm kind of ready to put it down. And they said, wait. And Dolly happened to be close by, and they called Dolly and said, could you come in and do something with this? You know, we're working on this song. And she came in, and it wasn't just about a matter of minutes until magic. You know how that once in a while
she has that ability. She just has that ability to elevate everybody.
That's her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Just if you look for Islands in the Stream on the Kenny Rogers, it's not his. Yeah. It belongs to Dolly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But she said, look, you can do this. We can do this. Come on, get in here, Kenny. We can do this.
Yep.
You know we can do this. And Kenny said about Dolly, he said, you know, whatever comes in her mind comes out of her mouth. She has no filter.
Yeah.
But everybody loves her for that, I think.
She's just a national treasure. Absolutely wonderful lady. Yeah, I think you should just check that out. Maybe in 2024, you and her go on tour together or something. That'd be really kind of cool.
That would be
I'll reach out to her. Maybe get John Trelizzi involved.
You know, he's probably got a connection. I hadn't thought about it. You know, wow.
John,
can you imagine?
John, we love you. We just want to let you know we give you a little love here, John.
Yeah, buddy. No, he's a great guy.
You've had your share.
I've never got to meet him.
You started to tell me a little bit about some of your road stories and stuff. This next feature is called Tales from the Road. These are those infamous road stories where you get to a gig and things just didn't go as planned. Think of Spinal Tap. What are some of your favorite tales from the road?
Well, let's see. There's which one of those though? Multiple opportunities. Well, let's say we did the Rock Box for Miss KK out in Texas. Did 2 shows, and we get to the venue, and we've gotten checked into rooms and whatnot, and we're hungry. Now we're on a 45-foot Prevost bus in town. If you can imagine, it's huge. It's like driving a house down the road, right? Yeah. So we pull into a restaurant to eat. And we all go in and sit down, and my bus driver's getting situated, and he comes in and he says, I don't know if I ought to tell you this before we eat or after we eat, which really kind of put a knot in my stomach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right then. I said, so what's the news? Have we had an accident? And he said, no. He said, the power steering is completely went out on the bus.
No. This thing kind of need it for something that big, yeah.
And of course, I couldn't eat a bite. I was done. I said, "Oh my gosh!" And the temperature is dropping, and it's starting to snow. And I thought, "What are we going to do?" You know. So the lady, Miss KK, she is quite the entrepreneur. She had she has the venue, the Rock Box. She also has an inn that she serves meals, and she has the bed and breakfast kind of thing going there. So she has some buses that she does a wine tour. So so these vans, and I said, my goodness. So she brought a van over. We were able to load everybody up, get them back, and get them ready for the gig. I made an emergency phone call, and they got some guys to come out. The bus has got a hose on it that has to go from the back to the front for the power steering. It's 50 feet long. You know? So, and this happens on a Friday afternoon. Nobody is open.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
You know, of course. Always. But, you know, we had 2 shows, and we weren't supposed to check out until lunch Sunday. The guys finished up the bus ready to go at 1:30. And we hit the road. So, we had traveling emergencies, and I was thankful for that.
The show must go on.
Know.
Yeah, you never know. You got some divine intervention there as far as that goes. I had Phil Hamilton on, a guy from, he played all over Texas. He's now in New Mexico. And he was telling me about his Prevost bus that he had. They actually had T-shirts that said, "Pray for the Prevost."
I'd like to borrow one of those and put it on the front of my bus.
Justin, how about some links to your social media for people to follow where you're going to be the rest of the year and also in 2024?
Well, that'll be great. I've got some good news. I've got a guy that's wanting to put a Kenny Dolly show together. we will be in Denver together, not under that act. Hopefully in the latter part of January. That deal hasn't solidified yet. We hadn't got a contract on it. But we do have contract in Wisconsin at the Seven Winds. That will be February 10th. And then we're in Michigan or Minnesota and Iowa. We've got several shows coming out that way, and they'll be on our website. We would love for people to come and visit our website. We're tickled with what we've got going on it. It's an eveningwiththegambler.com, one word, an eveningwiththegambler.com. And if you've enjoyed the show that you and I have done, and if you enjoy the videos and stuff, please leave us some kind of comment, and please be nice, if you will. I appreciate that. And we never know what little eyes might be looking at it.
Absolutely.
So,
by the way, go to that website. There's a picture on him in the white suit.
Yeah, the glow in the dark, man, the apparition. It's the Holy Ghost Kenny. He is risen. It was amazing. It was almost like they sucked the air out of the room. It was like a vacuum when they did it. It was huge.
Your band should start playing Hallelujah.
Up from the grave he arose.
I'll fly away.
Here we go, brother. But at the end of our show, if we get an encore, we usually end up doing a song that Kenny had a version of "Love Lifted Me."
Oh yeah, there you go.
That's what we go out on, and that's a great way that people leave with a good feeling in their heart, hopefully. But we've had a good time, got a good bunch of guys. We travel on the road well together. We've been having a good time with it. You asked this question. I kind of alluded out of that. I'll allude back to it. How is it to be doing Kenny's music post Kenny? There is a great deal of respect that is out there for Mr. Rogers. And when I walk into a room, it automatically becomes my room. I direct the traffic. It's like it's just, he's here, it's going to be okay. He's got it under control. And that can be kind of heavy when you walk into the room and you have that kind of a presence. And it's not me. It's because of the respect they had for Mr. Rogers. That he just, everybody respected him that way. In the book, it mentions the fact there was nobody really that he ever worked with that didn't enjoy all the time they spent with him. He made everybody feel very special. And so, it's an honor for me to be able to do that gentleman's material.
Final thought. This just popped in. Have you used your look to get you into something or out of something?
This is funny. We were on a bus and we were coming up to this might have been when we did the Ross Center at Crystal Lake, and we stopped to just get a sandwich. We just pulled the bus. We found a large parking lot that we could park the bus in, and we walked. I think it was to a Hardee's or a Arby's or something. And we just walked in to get a sandwich, and one of the ladies just continually, I could tell you stories all day long about people looking around a corner and, doing the double take. Got chased into the Sawgrass Mall in Fort Lauderdale. And I had to hide in the bathroom. I mean, so, it's real. I mean, I don't know what it is to be that star, but I've got an idea that it's like Elvis Presley. They said when he would go out in public, he had to rent the whole bowling alley. Yeah. And it had to be closed to the public, and they bring him in so he could bowl, or the movie theater. He just rented the whole theater. Yeah. It's the only way he could see one, because it would be such. And I haven't run into anything like that, but we went into this burger place, and the lady kept doing the double take, and I got up to my meal, and she said, "If you'll sing just a little bit of something, I'll give you your meal." I said, lady, I'm your knight in shining armor. And she just folded up.
Sign this rapper.
The funniest one.
God.
I was the music director in a small church, and one of the members' father had passed away. And I was attending the funeral. Next door to it was a burger place. And I went in to get something to eat before I went on. And I was dressed fairly nice. I wasn't in a blue coat, but I was dressed fairly nice. And I sat down to eat my burger, and I started seeing the people that were waiting, the people doing the cooking in order that worked at Hardee's peeking around the corner. And eventually one lady came out, and she said, "Are you him?" And I said, "Yes, I am."
Yeah, you are, because you are Justin Sullivan.
I am. I qualify. I'm a him. So she goes back, and then another lady comes out, and she said, "Can we get some pictures?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So I've got a little more of my burger to eat, and then the manager comes out, and she says, "We want to get a few pictures." And then she said this, no joke. Now, this is where it really gets off the chart funny. She said, "I know this is out of the way, and if you don't want to do it, I understand. Could we video you making a hamburger?"
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Sure. Let's do it.
You should have said, "I only do chicken."
Really? Yeah. They shut the whole place. I mean, the drive-through window, it's not moving. And there's people backed out to the highway. Oh. And they've got me back there putting these plastic gloves on, showing me how to put the lettuce and the special sauce. And I make the hamburger, and then they fight over who's going to get it. And I said, "Wait, I know. I can make another one. I know how now." End of the story. I'll make it quick. End of the story. So I'm getting ready to leave, and they wanted to, they wanted to get one group picture. And I said, "But wait, I want a group picture also. Y'all got pictures of me, but I don't have one of you. You want a picture of us?" I said, "Sure." I said, we've become friends now. So I get them all around me. I've still got the picture. I can prove it. So we're all around and behind the counter at Hardee's, I think, and we're all loved up. And I say, "My name is Justin Sullivan," just before they take the picture. And one of them turns to me and says, "Yeah, right." And then she says, "Next time, can you bring Dolly with you?"
I'll tell you what, gang, if he's this funny on stage as he's doing the role of Kenny Rogers in An Evening with a Gambler, you've definitely got to buy a couple hundred tickets. Justin Sullivan, the real deal band. You got to check out the website, An Evening with the Gambler. Make sure they're on your radar for the remainder of 2023 and 2024. I'd love to get this guy a Grammy some way, somehow. But, Justin, you have been an absolute delight to be on the show here. You just made my day. I want you to know that, brother.
Well, thank you, Rick. It's been a pleasure to be on here with you. Thank you, guys, for tuning in to see the show.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for tuning in to this episode of the Someone You Should Know podcast. Before I go, I want to share some friends of mine who also have a podcast. Give them a listen, and I invite you to check us out next time right here on the Someone You Should Know podcast. All right, here's my friends right now from the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.
Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike
with the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast, coming to you from the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66 in Joliet, Illinois.
Where once a week we are interviewing local musicians and singer-songwriters. And the podcast itself covers a wide range of topics, including, but not limited to, the history of rock and roll in Chicago, the current state of the scene, and the challenges and opportunities facing musicians today.
So join us every Tuesday for a new exciting episode of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast.